the Thousand-Year War. Bleach, one of the oldest wars in Bleach, began when the Quincy's went to war with the Soul Reapers of the Soul Society. The problem was how the Quincy's fought. Instead of purifying hollows, they completely destroyed them, which started breaking the balance of souls. And if that balance collapsed, the entire spiritual world could fall apart. So the Soul Reapers made a brutal decision. They wiped out the Quincy's. For 1,000 years, it looked like the war was finally over. But a millennium later, the Quincy Emperor Yuach returns. And the war begins again. A conflict that had been silently building for 1,000 years. The Holy War Nanatsu no Taizai. The Holy War began over 3,000 years ago. On one side stood the Goddess clan. On the other side were the demons, led by the Demon King. But this wasn't just a war between two races. Giants, fairies, and humans were all dragged into the conflict. Battles spread across the entire world, leaving destruction everywhere. Eventually the war came to an end, but its consequences never truly disappeared. Even thousands of years later, the scars of that war are still shaping the world. In reality, the Holy War never completely ended. The Tenjiku Conflict, Tokyo Revengers. One of the biggest conflicts in Tokyo Revengers begins with the rise of Tenjiku. This powerful gang is led by Izana Kurokawa, and their goal is simple crush the Tokyo Manji gang. What starts as gang tension quickly turns into something much bigger. Alliances break, betrayals happen, and more fighters from both sides get pulled into the conflict. Eventually, everything leads to one massive confrontation between the two gangs, a battle that ends up changing the fate of many characters and the future of Tokyo's underworld. The Machine War, Nier. In the world of Nier, humanity is fighting a war against alien machines. The aliens created massive robot armies that eventually took control of Earth. Humans had no choice but to retreat, escaping to the moon. But the war didn't stop. Android soldiers were created to keep fighting on the planet, and they have been doing exactly that for thousands of years. The strangest part is that many of these soldiers don't even know the truth anymore. They keep fighting without knowing if humanity still exists. The war between the Horde and the Alliance, World of Warcraft. In the World of Warcraft, one of the biggest conflicts is between two powerful factions, the Horde and the Alliance. What started as a rivalry slowly turned into a series of massive wars. The First War, the Second War, the Third War, and many more conflicts after that. Even when these factions work together against a common enemy, the peace never lasts long. The tension always comes back, because in this world, the war between the Horde and the Alliance never truly ends. The War of the Void Century. One Piece. One of the greatest mysteries in One Piece happened 800 years before the current story. During that time, there was an incredibly advanced civilization known as the Great Kingdom. At some point, that kingdom went to war against an alliance of 20 other kingdoms. The conflict was so massive that it completely reshaped the world. In the end, the Great Kingdom was destroyed, and the victors formed what is now known as the world government. But the most disturbing part is what happened next. Almost every record of that war was erased from history. That entire period became known as the Void Century, a war so dangerous that the world chose to forget it. The Dragon War Monster Hunter. Long before the current era of Monster Hunter, an ancient civilization existed, and that civilization was incredibly advanced. They built powerful weapons designed to fight massive creatures, especially dragons. But their ambition went too far. Eventually, a massive war broke out between humans and these giant monsters. The battles were so destructive that the entire civilization collapsed. Cities were lost, technology disappeared, and the world was left in ruins today. The only evidence of that war is what remains scattered across the world, ancient ruins and forgotten weapons. The war between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion. The Elder Scrolls. In the world of the Elder Scrolls, many wars have shaped history, but one of the biggest is the conflict between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion. What began as political tension slowly escalated into a full-scale war. Massive battles erupted across the continent. Cities were destroyed. Armies clashed in brutal campaigns. Eventually, a peace treaty was signed, but the peace was fragile, because the hatred between the Empire and the Dominion never truly disappeared, and many believe that this war is only waiting to start again.